what's interesting is the expectations of employees are so much higher. I mean, you know, now, and I'm sure you guys have got this covered off, but you know, you've got your mobile phone. You know, you walk into the office and you log into this horrible thing which looks awful. It doesn't have everything you want on it, and then you're there. But you know, and employees, particularly the new generation, are not prepared to put up with that anymore.
No.
Yeah. We're going to bring Liz back into the conversation now.
Yep, I'm here.
Super.
Very interesting.
Excellent.
And lots of connections I can make. I was had to keep very quiet there.
Anything you'd want to steal with pride?
Oh, probably lots of things. I really like the statement around the care in that last statement. I think that's really powerful. And I think it just sort of builds on what I was saying as well about this movement from this heroic leadership to this caring leadership, you know, caring about our people. So I really like that. So I've kind of written that down and stolen it already and sent it to a few colleagues.
Yeah, and I was amazed, to be honest, how you've taken the paternity and maternity, if I've got it right, your approach that you have in Sweden, and you've pushed that out across the world. That must be almost a first. Is that now a standard policy, is it?
With the
what you were saying is that for people who want to take time off for either paternity or maternity, you obviously have some, let's say, really progressive legislation and regulations in Sweden. If I got that right. And if I understood it, what you said is you've now started to position that and actually implement that across the globe in countries whereby the regulations may not even be in place for basic stuff like paternity leave. I think that's
and I mean, it's really appreciated. Really appreciated in America, of course, where you know, very limited maternity and paternity rights. In China, often, well, very unusual for the male to take the leave. So so we're seeing quite a healthy uptake, I would say, from those countries. And of course, there's a cultural change as well. You know, I coming from the UK to Sweden, I mean, it was it's not very far away, but actually it was a shift in my thinking as well. You know, when people were going on parental leave, you know, and coming back to their jobs, I had my British head on. I was going, oh well, the job won't be there when you get back, and of course it is. It's part of the culture.
Did you want to comment on that, Andrea?
Yeah, I was just actually thinking. I really like this policy, and I believe that this is something which many companies has to follow. We also have paternity policies, and I was also just thinking it's really helping inclusion and diversity as well. I mean, it's sending a very powerful message out there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was key. I mean, our CEO talks about this as well. You know, our CHRO, when she was approached several years ago to become the CHRO by the CEO, she said, but I've got small children. And he said, so what? This is Volvo Cars. You know, we need to be able to balance that. And it's so important. And I did a lot of work in professional services. And we used to work with sort of senior manager level population. And we would often find that it was quite male dominated, because the females were saying, well, you know, how can I progress my career? I'm expected to work, you know, long days, evenings and weekends. I can't do it. I want to start a family.
And I can resonate with that, because my background, I spent 15 years in legal and professional services, actually. So I do, and I do see a big difference here at Nokia, and also now understanding Volvo better, because here the flexibility is real. I mean, I'm a single mom with a small child, so flexibility for me is really key. Being able to run such a role, I would need the support from my line manager, being, you know, as flexible as possible with my working time. And this is something which I really appreciate, and many of our colleagues are appreciating. During 2020 and the beginning of 2021, I had a big team at the time, but we were able to manage to connect. I was able to manage to connect approximately 10 people from my team in a week, you know, just for 15 minutes coffee chats, just to check in. And so many parents were, you know, talking very positively about this flexibility. It was amazing to hear.
Yeah, no, super good. Really important.
So there's a question that came into the Q&As, which I'll just pick up, and then we'll drop into the broader conversation around that we talked about yesterday. I think we've actually covered quite a bit of it, so I'm going to just put a different spin on it, if that's okay. But there was a specific question in the chat, Liz, about your 1-minute feedback process. Yeah. The first question was, how did you do it with people who were working remotely? And secondly, coupled with that was, did you get any metrics or any analysis out of it?
How did we do it remotely? Well, we were, I think, quite creative, because of course, when we did it, China were coming back into the office just at the point that Europe were going home. Sure. So it was quite interesting. So we were getting we asked people to take pictures and post them online. So when we woke up in Europe, we could see what had been all the activities that had been happening in China in the office. And then, of course, we encourage people to dial each other up, you know, take a Teams meeting, take a walk and talk to give feedback, really encouraging that. So it wasn't that hard, I don't think, to do it online and virtually. It seemed to work. And metrics, no, I would say. We saw it as a fun activity, but also with a very serious message. So yeah, I wouldn't say we've got any metrics. I'm kind of like scanning my brain. Did we get any? But no, we didn't.
Yeah, but I think it was more of an opportunity for people to, you know, and I agree, as you mentioned, a fun activity rather than a must-have.
Yeah, yeah. And it was interesting because, of course, the message was we wanted people to be able to give both the constructive feedback and a positive message. But of course, the pandemic was just hitting. You know, people were going to work from home. People were scared, and it just didn't feel right. And so at one point we're saying, should we just abandon this? And I was like, no, I think we need this more than ever. Let's just turn it into positive feedback and just change the messaging. So there you go, adaptability again. I'm the mistress of adaptability, that's for sure.
So I'm going to move into a little bit about the conversation we had yesterday. And you've covered off quite a few of the points because if you recall, we talked about really the leadership side of it. So I'm going to slightly twist what we talked about yesterday, and because I mean it sounds like you're doing some amazing stuff to support your leaders. I'm going to take a slightly different view on it, which is not my view, but just to open up the conversation, which is, are we asking too much of leaders? We've got leaders who clearly have to run businesses, they have to deliver targets, they have to deliver numbers. We're now asking them to be humanistic and a number of other things, and I'd really welcome your view on not only are we asking them to do too much, for example, but then how do we continue to support them? Because clearly it's pretty clear that particularly at this point in time, it's pretty hard being a leader when you've got your staff remotely, you're having to continue to support them, deliver, communicate, take care of well-being, and both we're all leaders, so we're part of it as well. So I just open up the conversation in a slightly different way. Would you like to go first, Andrea?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I think also Liz mentioned in her presentation, and this is a topic we are talking about, whether we should probably separate people leaders from the technical leaders, actually, or the business leaders itself, and whether this would be the right way to go. I'm not sure I have the answer right now, but this is something which we are thinking about and considering, because the human skills, let's not call them soft skills, but human skills, they are extremely important when leading a team. They are extremely important for the employees, for the development of them, for their a day-to-day experience, for their day-to-day delivery even, and also thinking about their future. Especially in the current setup of going hybrid and being hybrid or being virtual, I mean, these skills are really getting into the front line, and the leaders are also in the front line. And if they don't have these skills, it's going to be extremely hard for them to manage and make sure that the colleagues are connected to them and they are sticking with the company. Because it's never been so easy than right now, just to, one day to another, to switch and go somewhere else and switch roles and switch jobs. We need this interaction and connection. And are we asking too much from the leaders? It really depends. If we are, already at the beginning thinking about how we are selecting our leaders, what are the skills we are requesting right from the beginning, then it might not be an issue in the long term. Maybe it is an issue still yet, but this is something which shouldn't be an issue going forward.
What's your thoughts, Liz?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you at all. I absolutely see the benefits of the human people leader, if you like, and the technical leader, because that was one of the things we identified when we went out and asked leaders what their pain points are. It really was some of those sort of administrative tasks that come with people leadership. So I see that, yes, absolutely. I think historically we perhaps have promoted people that are excellent performers in their technical field, and where else can they go? Progression is leadership in a lot of organizations. So I think there's something in that, that leadership, how we sell in leadership, it is about bringing out the best in people. It is about having those humanistic skills, and maybe not everybody has those. And maybe not everybody wants to be a people leader. So I think sometimes people are just sort of forced into that position when it may not be right for them. So I think if we can get back to the selection, as you said, Andrea, and really make sure we get the right people in the right place.
Yeah, I think sometimes we feel we actually need teams and we need a leader in place, when often a team can be pretty self-managing and self-contained. So I think, maybe the concept of leader is maybe a concept which will be unpicked considerably going forward. But let's see. So just going to move on to the last question before we close. And it very much comes to something which is obviously the heart of what I'm passionate about, having worked in HR, but also have a technology component as well. How have you used technology to support you through the last 18, 24 months? You mentioned a little bit, Andrea, about having to get people to, have some, let's say, downtime or off time in terms of the technology, their mobile phones, etc. But how have you used technology to support yourselves through the last sort of 18, 24 months, and what do you see in that space will change as we move forward?
I think maybe if I may, I have seen lots of progress in automation, actually, because of the lockdown. So we try to focus on automating many of the processes and trying to make sure that our processes are more efficient going forward. This is an area which people really focused on. Obviously, the virtual learnings, so that the platforms for virtual learnings is also in a high demand, in my view. Thinking about onboarding, that's also something which we needed to solve virtually, instead of just being able to meet colleagues in the office space and being able to deliver the trainings on the spot.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to say the same, really. We obviously went on to Teams in our case and became very proficient in the use of Teams, so that's been fantastic. We very quickly, when it came to our leadership development, went online, and then that helped us moving forward on our digital investment when it came to learning and leadership. So that's been great. We were able to move forward quicker than we probably would have done. And we've been able to use different tools like apps, which have been able to support our leadership with the development, so nudge effects. So I think it's been really important for us. Yeah, so there has been positives, of course, coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, we've seen. I mean, if I take my own Oracle experience, I said at the beginning, I haven't actually been into the office for 2 years, and I've only been with the organisation for sort of 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So that says something in its own right, doesn't it? But we're in a very privileged position, I guess, of having some great technology and some great support. But what we are seeing is very, very clearly is companies who are maybe not Nokia or Volvo or Oracle, who haven't had that investment over time, have really struggled to be able to pivot very, very quickly to a different way of working and a remote type of working. All the way from we're here today talking on Zoom. Yeah, for us probably, and for you, it was okay. Well, that wasn't particularly difficult. You've got Teams again. We just meld into that. But a lot of organisations have really had to really try and accelerate the whole digital transformation journey, and it's been substantial. So we clearly, in a lot of cases, in a privileged position on that. But yeah, we definitely see a lot. We see a lot of organisations now trying to be able to implement, the things that you've shared with us. Actually, you need to have the foundations in place, and I'm sure you probably do. So a lot of that is really starting to accelerate, I would say.
I definitely agree with that, yeah. Mark. I think that's very true. And just coming from a telecommunication company, the company itself have seen an increased demand from customers to, just to deliver the services to them, because the word is going to be connected, when we are moving towards more technology and digitalization. Really,
what's interesting is the expectations of employees are so much higher. I mean, now, and I'm sure you guys have got this covered off, but you've got your mobile phone. You walk into the office and you log into this horrible thing which looks awful. It doesn't have everything you want on it, and then you're there. But and employees, particularly the new generation, are not prepared to put up with that anymore, and we hear that a lot.
True. They definitely demand something else, something different, something quicker, something easy to use. But I think it's not just the younger generation thing.
Yeah, true.
No, but it's interesting. I think we use them as an excuse, but actually, when we say, the younger generation need more feedback, the younger generation, want things now. Well, I think a lot of us want both of those things.
Exactly.
But hey, if it gets things moving, fine. Fine by me.
True.
So I'm just going to bring my colleague Rakesh into the conversation. Rakesh is someone I value tremendously, not only in terms of his ability to share with us things, but also his perspective on what he's hearing from other organizations. What are you hearing on this topic at the moment? I noticed you joined us just in time, Rakesh, so you're not going to get away with just showing us the system. That would be too easy. So let's.
I should have waited.
Exactly. Well, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right, Liz. What you're saying, we use the younger generation as an excuse sometimes, but actually, whichever company I talk to, it's all about having technology that allows you to do things quickly, efficiently, and easily. Because for most people that all of your organizations employ, their day job isn't HR. It's serving your customers or building your products or whatever it is. So when I need to interact with HR and when I need to look at information or develop myself, I want it to be easy to do. I want to be able to do it in a way that suits me, whether that's on my phone or on my iPad or on the way into work, whatever that is. So it's really about having technology that enables people to do things quickly, easily, and efficiently. And what's happened over the last few years is, we're so used to that in our personal lives now. You can check your banking on your phone and transfer things and speak to your pizza delivery person or whatever it is. And we expect that from work. And I think that's probably where the younger generation come in, because there are people that are growing up with that now. And so the expectation is, why is it worse when I'm in the office?
What's even more interesting is you're starting to see different ways of interacting now. So moving from, me using my thumbs to type a message, to a lot of voice now, and expecting that to be in place is what I'm also hearing a lot of, which for me is, I haven't quite got my head around that yet, to be honest. I need to type or get on the phone. Sort of,
and it's who you're interacting with as well, isn't it? You could be using your voice or text or or any other input method, but then you've also got things like digital assistants that are supporting people faster, and it's not taking away from those human experience, it's augmenting it and improving it.
But there's a really interesting question in the chat, which was around employee experience. Well, firstly, there was a number of really complimentary things in the chat, in the Q&A there, which said, great stories, thank you very much. One of the main questions I'd like to bring out was, how are you measuring employee experience? So we talk about the fact that through whatever we're doing, we're looking to improve that employee experience. And one of the questions that came out was, as I said, how do we measure employee experience and determine whether we're actually moving forward or not?
I think it's a complex question to answer, in my view, because employee experience has so many aspects. Mm-hmm. So we are running the post surveys regularly on different topics to understand, how people are coping, what their preferences are, what they would like us to, do more or do less. And then there are also, if I'm just thinking about the people care team currently in my organization, we are definitely want to, move towards having more open feedback from our employees, understanding, where they are on their journey. We also plan to have the voice of the customer, questionnaires, and it might not be just about measuring it, but also kind of think proactively what might be important for them, what might be interesting them going forward. So, but I think as much as possible, open feedback from them, that's definitely a way to go, which I would suggest.
Liz, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, we're on the Pulse survey as well, you know, regularly listening to what people are saying, what they're thinking, where they're at the moment. And we've got, you know, various dashboards where we're looking into, well, D&I, for example, and our graduate program and our leadership, so we can keep measuring, you know, where are people at right now. So complex, it's not all in one place, so we sort of have to gather it and pull it all together. But yeah,
maybe just one additional thoughts to that, you know, because of the dashboard, mentioning the dashboard. So we also have an in-house analytics team, which is putting together HR analytics for us. And I think, you know, just reviewing all of the information which they provide, you know, slower attrition rates, you know, these can be all indicators besides the post surveys of the employee experience and how we are providing our services. So as Liz mentioned, you know, pulling together all of this information and making sure that we understand, that we are also data savvy enough to understand all of this information and connect the dots.
But I think that's interesting what you said there about the people analytics, because we also have a people analytics team, and it is about making sense of the data, because sometimes you can look at the data and think, well, what does this really mean? And so then it's about sense making, and we certainly did that when we were looking at some of our exit data, and then thinking, okay, we need more data now to really understand some of the nuances of what people have said at a higher level. So yeah, it's great to have the data, but yeah, you need to really tell the story with the data. What does it mean?
Rakesh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, echoing what you're saying, the analytics are really key, and not just looking at, you know, like a pulse survey in isolation, but actually combining that with other data around the business to understand what you're actually being told, and I mean, just one thing I'm seeing with those pulse surveys is some organizations are making them, you know, really small. So if you imagine, like, when you leave an airport sometimes, or if anybody's been to Heathrow, you have the kind of smiley faces. So how are you feeling? So just sending out really simple feedback surveys like that, and capturing at different points throughout the year, and when there are different events in the company and so on, how are people feeling? So it's not a 5-minute exercise, it's a 5-second exercise, and combining that with other data to understand, you know, actually what are the things that impact our employees positively and negatively, and how can we capture that? So, you know, that's something we're seeing a lot more of.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't plug this question in, but interesting enough, I was actually asked this question by CHRO a couple of weeks ago, and I had to think because, you know, I would have said quite similar things to what you said. But what was interesting in the conversation where it went was actually, if you look at employee experience and break it down, you can probably come up with a number of, let's say, things which have an impact on an employee experience. For argument's sake, performance management, learning, etc. Yeah. So you can sort of look at these let's say, blocks which have an impact on experience, and you can actually start to measure some of those. So for example, and you've got to make sure you don't make the wrong conclusion. So for example, some organizations will run a performance management process with goals, targets, etc., the whole lot, the standard managed by objectives process. And in a lot of cases, employees don't follow it. Okay, so you could say, look, what's the experience of the process? The experience could be, actually, I don't like the process, I don't follow it, so I don't have a good experience. But actually, it could be, well, actually, my manager's really good at coaching me, and we have some really good conversations. So actually, I'm very happy with our performance management process, but I don't go into the system, I don't use the tools, because actually I don't want to. So it's a really quite a layered conversation, but something I think as professionals we're going to have to get into in a bit more detail at some point, particularly when we start asking for a bit more money to support some of these initiatives and things.
But we had a similar experience with feedback. You know, my manager doesn't give me feedback. Oh no, actually my manager doesn't give me feedback because I get feedback from the team and from other people. And of course, that's the agile way of working. Exactly. There are different leaders, different managers. So yeah, careful what the data tells you.
We could talk about this all the time, I'm sure.
Exactly. I think
so we better let people go to lunch, and I've taken up enough of your time. Yeah. Rakesh, and you weren't going to get away there. So thanks for staying on. Just like to say, really, Andrea and Les, thank you very much. Thank you for putting the time into the presentations. They were really great representations and amazing brand ambassadors for both your organizations. So they look great. So thanks for doing that. I know it just doesn't happen overnight. So thanks for taking the time, and hopefully you'll get some other insight out of the rest of the sessions.